Hello. So after doing the reading and comparing it to my current work environment, I would definitely say it's leaning more towards that ethnocentric aspect. A lot of judgment, a lot of certain people thinking others are less than. They're up here and then we're down here. I also work for very, very big corporation, and we have a union as well. So there's a lot of, tension, so to speak, especially right now. One example that definitely comes to mind, I think it happened a year or two ago. A supervisor was reprimanding another fellow employee for like something minuscule, like really didn't even matter. But the way he went about it, it was very, very disrespectful. It was basically degrading. That he was saying stuff like, how hard I've worked. You have to do what I say when I say it. Like I got a bachelor's degree, got this job, I got my master's. Like you do what I say. Very, very disrespectful. Very condescending. I did not like that one bit. Luckily, my coworker is very, very quick-witted. I think he said, "Oh, you got your master's degree. Very good. I make more than you do, and I barely got my GED." Which I'm definitely not knocking a higher education. I mean, I'm trying to get a bachelor's degree, but the way that supervisor and others as well goes about it is treating others like they're less than, and I definitely don't vibe with that. The interesting thing is, after that particular experience, and then after doing the reading, your question number 3, attempts by leadership to address the ethnocentric tendencies, I actually have seen that. It's around. Think of King Arthur. King Arthur, although he's the king, he had his knights in the round table. Everybody had an equal say. Everybody had an equal part. So most of our meetings are huge, massive, 200-300 people. What they would do after those meetings now is implement smaller meetings. So we're talking about 10, 25 people. We'd have workers, supervisors, but then their boss and then their boss. We would all sit down. We would all have something to actually offer. We would all be able to communicate, and it was very, very helpful. We definitely made a lot of progress and a lot of strides during those times. Also like potlucks, or they'll buy a bunch of food, barbecue, pizza, what have you, and everybody would kind of break bread. Everybody would be equal, would be one. They're all on the same team, and that type of team building I think is very, very important. The problem is, although it was successful in the short term, big companies, a lot of them are like revolving doors. So especially with leadership. So 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden you have brand new leadership. They come in, they're like, what are we doing? How do we make this work? Because a lot of times the older leadership, they don't really give you a checklist. And then once that happens, then like, all right, what can we do? How can we better provide for our customers? How can we be more efficient? And then after that, usually the next step is the team building aspect. Like, all right, how can we help out our workers? Make sure they're safe, make sure they're more efficient, all that good stuff. And then, boom, just like that, we got a whole nother team, and the cycle continues again. So yeah, for that question, I would believe, it's definitely successful, but not in the long term. The material that changed, this material, my perspective, I've definitely been thinking about that Inuit story. I liked it a lot. They weren't just championing, the leaders, winners 1, 2, and 3. They were championing the last person, like to do that, huge trek. He was the last person. The fact that he tried, the fact that he gave his all, the fact that he did something that's outside of his comfort zone, they champion that, and I think that's pretty awesome. I have some family in the UK. For some reason, their culture, they like to keep people down. Like, they don't like when other people are successful. They don't even like people trying new things. It's very, very like drab, like very, very dry. I've heard that multiple times, different UK authors and whatnot. That is very, very similar to some of my work aspects. It's just like you stay in your little bubble, very, very clicky. It's like a win or lose, or Democrats versus Republican, or this or that. It's just very binary. But there's a lot of stuff in between. And that trying aspect, like opening your eyes and then realizing that we're on a team, we're here to do a job. Let's try and figure out how can we make it more efficient? How can we make our lives easier and provide for our customers? So yeah, I definitely will be thinking about that more. I don't see myself being there for retirement, 40, 50 years. That environment's not really what I'm looking for. But while I'm there, I'll definitely try to increase it and better it until I can get my own company up and running and produce our own culture, our own flavor. And I'm very excited to do that. All right, thanks for listening.